Welcome back, and thanks for joining us for this edition of the 2014 Campaign Roundtable Series. I'm politics reporter Robert-rizzuto, and we are here debating ballot question number 3, the casino topic. I'm here with MGM Springfield President Mike-Mathis and Al Cabot of Repeal-the-Casino-Deal. For our next question, we are going to kick it over to our panel of journalists, and this one comes from the Republicans' Ron Chamelis. Ron?
Thanks, Rob. Mike, as one of the conditions for receiving the license, MGM's agreed to allocate funds for gambling addiction. Why, in your mind, is this not a contradictory message by creating an easy access location that can facilitate addiction and then offering money to treat a very small portion of that? Why is that not contradictory?
Okay, so Mike, one of the conditions of the license from the Gaming Commission was allocating a certain amount of funds and services toward people who tend to have a problem with gaming. So to talk about this, how is this not a contradiction?
Yeah, it's a really important issue, and it's not a contradiction. I think
our product, like any product, can be abused. And in our case, there's studies. We've funded studies because we want to understand it better. 1 to 2 to 3% of the population has issues with responsible gaming. And as an industry, we continue to try to understand it better. What's really, I think, progressive about the Gaming Act is it looked at other jurisdictions and how different jurisdictions handle resources for problem gaming. And it set aside 5% of all tax revenues that are going to be collected from the different operators to fund public health. And the major public health issue around this issue is responsible gaming. The reason it's not a contradiction is because there's a recognition that while a large majority of our customers responsibly enjoy gaming as a form of entertainment, there are some that do not, and that we, as the provider of that product, need to help with assisting those folks. We do it through funds, but we also do it through innovative leadership. We're one of the companies that helped form the National Center for Responsible Gaming, which conducted studies with Harvard and other institutions to try to understand it, and I think is slowly but surely being recognized as a pathological form of addiction, not unlike alcohol addiction or drug addiction, is chemical. So one of the things that we do as a company is we institute a self-exclusion policy, which allows customers who have a problem to put themselves on a list. It also allows family members of individuals to put them on a list, and then we trespass them from our property. We give them a year lockout or a 6-month lockout, depending on the jurisdiction.
So they won't be allowed to come in and gamble.
That's correct. That's correct. And we treat it very seriously. We don't believe a problem gamer is a good customer. We want a sustainable customer who enjoys all aspects of the experience, whether it's gaming or non-gaming. So I don't think it's a contradiction. I think for the first time, if you think about it, Connecticut has been sending, Massachusetts has been sending its gaming customers down to Connecticut and Rhode Island. And when those people return with these addiction problems, there are no resources. All those funds stay to help Connecticut and Rhode Island residents.
Yeah, this is actually leads me to my follow-up with Al here. I know that the addiction aspect of this has been of the utmost concern to your group. As we're talking about this, the folks, how many Massachusetts residents are already going to the Connecticut and the Rhode Island casinos, and they are coming back and not having access to these different programs. Isn't what the casino companies are offering here kind of bringing those services home?
Not at all. The addiction is the reason that the casinos are in business. Independent studies not produced by the gaming industry indicate that over 50% of their revenues, it's not just a small portion. In fact, the latest studies show 70% of their slot machine revenue comes from problem gamblers.
How can that be assessed, though? Explain these studies, I guess. I'm not familiar with that
They ask questions of individual gamblers. They talk about their lifestyle, how they spend their money, what they put on a credit card, when they've gambled or not gambled, and determine whether or not they're addicted or they're problem gamblers. So they see if they reach a certain criteria.
Exactly,
if they reach a series of criteria. Those studies show that that is how the gambling industry makes its money.
But if these folks
if not
have the
for
problem,
addiction, the question was contradiction. If not for addiction, casino gambling wouldn't be in business. In fact, if you go to marketing work on casino gambling journal, for example, you will find that the mantra of the casino industry is very short and simple. It's attract, capture, and induce to return. That's the mantra. It's not, gee, let's produce the best product, not let's keep our customers happy, but attract, capture, and induce to return. Addiction is the core of this industry, and the addiction itself creates increased levels of crime, domestic violence, child neglect, bankruptcies, and that's what we're really asking to bring to Massachusetts.
I guess the center of my question here is, if folks are gambling already and they have a problem, now they're going to have access to services. I mean, isn't that a positive thing? I mean, without getting into how many folks you think that are the customers that have the problem.
The
saying
point
that
is
they don't have
there is a
access to these
huge
services.
contradiction. How hard can they be trying to keep people out? How hard does the liquor store try to keep the alcoholic from coming in and buying more liquor? Of course, it's a huge contradiction.
But we're not closing down liquor stores because some people have addictions.
Right, but we have an opportunity now. Why should we increase? The other point is proximity. By putting casino gambling in Massachusetts, you're asking to multiply that rate of problem gamblers that exists currently. Mike said 1, 2, 3%. Well, there was a study in Iowa that said the underlying 1.7% before gambling went up to 5.4%. Let's say it increases 3% in Massachusetts. Based on our adult population of 5 million, that's 150,000 new problem gamblers in Massachusetts
But using
that we're
that
asking
figure,
to bring
that's
here.
the population of the state. Are you saying that every man, woman, and child in Massachusetts will be a customer of the casinos?
No, that's only the population over age 21 in our state.
Okay. All right. Well, we are.
Rob, can I respond to that?
Sure. Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
A lot of facts and figures were flying around there, and I'd love to see the study that shows 50% of addiction or 50% of our revenues are generated from addiction. That's a ridiculous number, with all due respect to Mr. Cabot. Here's the challenge and the frustration with people that don't know our industry, talking about our industry. This is all documented, the numbers I'm about to give you. You can pull it from our annual reports. In Las Vegas, MGM Resorts generates 70% of its revenues off the casino floor. Okay, and that's because we have Cirque du Soleil shows, that's because we have hotel rooms, 5-star hotel rooms, we have convention center groups. So the idea that we generate the majority of our revenues off addiction is ridiculous, because we don't even generate the majority of our revenues off of gaming. So that needs to be clear and understood. Mm-hmm. We're bringing that model to Springfield, and that's why we've got 20 retail shops and 10 restaurants, and while we're going to have a bowling alley and a movie theater for the first time in downtown Springfield, we're going to be a catalyst for that. We're also going to have 50 market rate apartments. We looked at the Urban Land Institute, who did a seminal study back in 2006 about how to turn Springfield around, and what they said is you need a work, live, play environment. So we're going to be a catalyst for market rate apartments. I believe Morgan Square has announced that there's market rate apartments that are coming. Mm-hmm. You're already seeing the boom and the catalytic impact of our project. People said that us coming downtown would scare businesses away. I want you to look at what's happened since our announcement. UMass Springfield has announced a campus. Last week, incredibly, the C&R Changchung Railway Company was awarded a contract to produce rail cars on the Westinghouse site. You're seeing the catalytic impact of our project. It's not about gaming, it's about economic development.
Thank you. And we're going to have to cut this here, and we're going to go to our next question. This is coming from the panel. This will be Rob Genest. Rob?
Al, MGM has a casino in Detroit, and the city is still in terrible shape. Do you feel the casino worsened the problem, or simply been able to overcome Detroit's problems by itself?
Okay, so on the topic of Detroit, obviously it's a major American city, it's in bankruptcy, very tough times in Detroit. MGM is one of the companies that has a casino there. Al, tell me what you
I have to go back.
I'm
I'm sorry for whatever time you would give me. Mr. Mathis is trying to compare Las Vegas to what he's putting into Springfield, and nothing could be farther from the truth.
As far as the multifaceted
as far as
approach
the
to a
percentage
casino?
of income, he has not shared with anyone. I know how much a bowling alley generates, an outdoor ice skate. Yes, I'm in the business of doing marketing studies and strategic business planning for companies that are coming into an area. The question is, what is the market and where is the money coming from? It doesn't drop from the sky. And we can't move Las Vegas into Springfield. It doesn't work that way. And the percentage of the income is not 30%. Maybe it is in Las Vegas, but in Connecticut it's closer to 90%. Convenience casinos across the country are closer to 80, 90%. For Mike to say now that something else is coming is ridiculous.
They do have a plan to develop more than just the gaming aspect of this. There is the retail aspect, there is the market rate housing, there's the hotel, there's the bowling alley, the movie theater, there's all this entertainment complex. So are you disputing that they're actually planning to do this?
Yes, attract, capture, and induce to return. If you market to different walks of life, with a bowling alley, with different kinds of restaurants.
But not everybody is going to go into and
No,
gamble.
of course not everybody will, but the idea is to attract first. This is the marketing
it's
plan.
a business. I mean, should they not be trying to attract customers?
They're trying to addict customers. The more they addict, get over that 50-60%, the more likely they are to be in business here.
I understand, but there's really no way to prove what their intentions are.
Only what's happened in 300 other metropolitan cities across the United States already.
Well, then this will bring me back to the question from 2 times ago. Do you have a specific criticism about MGM as a company, the way they've operated, not the gaming industry as a whole? I mean, you could paint the media as a whole with a certain brush. We're talking about this project. Do you have a specific criticism of the way they've acted? Let's bring it right back to Detroit, another urban area. Is there something that's happened in there that's give you a bad taste in your mouth about them as a company?
It hasn't helped the situation in Detroit, that's for certain. Nobody is saying that it did. I don't think Mike is saying that it did.
Well,
Detroit is a particular example that had problems because of the auto industry decline. We all know
Certainly,
that. I'm not using that as a comparison.
Right.
Atlantic City was a destination where people came from a distance. Why did they do that? Because that was the only place it was legal. Now it's legal everywhere, and there's over 1,000 places, slots, parlors, and casinos across the United States. In the Northeast alone,
we'll talk about the issue of saturation, but we're not there right now.
Okay.
About Detroit specifically, I want to look at, because it's another American urban center that has casinos. So if you don't have any specific criticism of the MGM in Detroit, I'd like to move on.
I don't see where it's helped.
Okay, Mr. Mathis, I'd like to talk to you about this.
Let me answer the Detroit question.
Yes, please,
Let me answer
talk
the
about
Detroit
Detroit.
question. It's a fair question. I appreciate Al not suggesting that we were responsible for some of the problems in Detroit. I do appreciate that, because we've never said we're the savior of any community, and we're certainly not going to take responsibility for problems that are really endemic to the politics or to the local environment. In Detroit, we have, since our opening, we've paid $1.5 billion in gaming revenue to the city and to the state. We employ between 3,000 and 3,500 people there, 55% of which are Detroit residents. That's a commitment we made early on, and we've sustained that and improved that over time. And to that extent, it's very similar, because we want to make sure that the local benefits stay within, in this case, Springfield. So we've made very aggressive local hire commitments, and we have a record of that. The reason that you will not hear any of the yes folks assailing our company, MGM, or any of our projects is because we are the leader in the industry. We are a blue chip company, 62,000 employees across our portfolio, widely recognized as one of the best places to work. Our chairman, Jim Murren, is recognized as one of the leading CEOs in our industry, in any industry. We're unassailable. And that's the reason I think there's going to be a challenge to attack our proposal, because it really is about what is the quality of the operator. In our case, MGM Resorts, which is the worldwide entertainment leader. We're going to turn on the Mass Mutual Center. If you think about the things we've done, we've committed to put acts into the Mass Mutual Center. We've committed to put acts into Symphony Hall and City Stage. And when you talk about that revenue mix and why we're not replicating it, perhaps replicating that ratio in Springfield, is because we're providing a lot of that non-gaming revenue outside of our borders. We build we're going to design a 250-room hotel tower for Springfield. We would normally build 1,000 rooms, but the reason we're not doing that is because we want the Sheratons and the Marriotts and the Hilton Gardens of the world to see their numbers go up. But that's revenue that's generated because of the casino, and that we would normally capture in Las Vegas. So, I think it's really important that people look at our proposal. As you mentioned, it's multifaceted. It's widely recognized as going to be one of the leading models of economic development in our industry, and no one ever wants to talk about that. They want to talk about Atlantic City. You think we were trying to repeal the New Jersey Gaming Act or the Michigan Gaming Act. This is about the Massachusetts Gaming Act and what we're trying to do here in Springfield.
And I'll give you a quick chance to
response
respond
to that
to the multifaceted aspect of the
I'd like to
MGM
respond
plan.
to what he said.
That's what
He said that
Please.
X number of dollars went into Detroit coffers. The question is, where did that money come from? If it came out of the residents and the surrounding residents of the Detroit area, then that number was much, much larger than anything they delivered it to the town of Detroit. The same thing is going to happen here. If the number, $450 million of annual gaming losses, I said it, gambling losses that's going to drop into Springfield that he still doesn't want to talk about, although he did say on the radio it was coming from Western Mass, and this was for Western Mass. That number makes everything else pale in comparison that they're offering in return.
But the redistribution of wealth argument isn't all business by definition redistribution of wealth. I'm
Well-
paying you for a service, you make your own investments, whether it's to the municipality with taxes or where you spend it yourself. Aren't we talking about the same thing?
80% of their revenue is coming in from a slot machine. How much maintenance do you think the slot machine
that's
has?
not accurate.
Is that even?
That's not
I mean,
accurate.
You're making these.
Again, I'm
these
saying he
assertions about
hasn't
the-
provided us detailed projections in any way of the revenue, yet he tells us what's going on in Las Vegas. So I have no way to argue if he doesn't want to provide any information.
Hey, Rob, every number I've used is verifiable. I think I've given you a source every time I've referenced it, but if I haven't, I'll provide it to you. There's not a single number that I've heard from Al that you could verify. Some study, some unknown study that talks about addiction and quotes ridiculous numbers. I'd like to see that study. I think we should be debating it. But here's the piece of our business plan that no one on their side wants to talk about. It's been ignored on this platform today. Is a third of our customers are coming from Connecticut. So this idea that money's falling from the sky or that we're cannibalizing the local market is just inaccurate. That's part of our business plan. We've gone and tested the market. We're exactly, if you look at the West Hartford market, which is a very lucrative market, our project is slightly closer than the tribal casinos in Connecticut, and we're going to market heavily to them. They don't want to talk about that because it means we're growing the pie. Right, we're growing the pie, and it undercuts their argument, but that's an important part of our business plan. Now, 2/3 of our customers are going to be coming from the local environment, and that's going to be customers that we think we're going to be keeping that otherwise would be going to Connecticut. So that's the answer to that question. I wish you'd address it because I think it's an important aspect of our project, that we're capturing Connecticut dollars and bringing them across the state line.
Al, on this topic,
I think
bringing
it's
the money
fantastic.
back.
This is a great topic. They're advertising, you've seen the flyers going around, $1 billion coming to Massachusetts. They're trying to make you believe that the money is coming to Massachusetts. This is basically a giant whale swimming in Connecticut that's partially eaten already. And there are 2 sharks that have their teeth in it, Foxwoods and Mohegan. And there are 3 other sharks to the north, Wynn, Penn, and MGM, and they want to get their teeth into it. The money isn't coming to the people of Massachusetts. This is simply money that's going from 1 casino or 2 casinos in Connecticut to 3 other casinos in Massachusetts. Let's follow where the money is really going to.
So you don't think there's enough business to go around then?
It's not that there's not enough business to go around. It's that the whole perception that something is coming to Massachusetts that's going to help Massachusetts is ridiculous. We are watching a feeding frenzy between the casinos that are trying to take money from 2 of them and bring them to 3 other ones. The only piece that's semi-legitimate is the fact that, according to their own, what I believe are overinflated studies, $77 million of Massachusetts taxpayers' money went to the Connecticut Treasury. That's their number. I believe it's inflated. Stephen Crosby of the Gaming Commission says only a fraction of that's going to come back. So what are we talking? 30? I'll give you half, a big fraction. What are we talking? 30, 40 million dollars?
Here's my point.
That actually comes to Massachusetts.
If it's some, we're not going to get into specific figures because the people at home probably could care less if we're going to be tossing random numbers around.
Well, I think they should
here's
understand
my
we're not
question,
talking
though.
$1 billion. We're talking 40 million. There's a huge difference.
All right.
Hey, Rob, as I said, they don't have any answer to that point. Just to be really clear, we're projecting about $500 million of gaming revenue. We're projecting that $150, $175 million of that revenue is going to come from Connecticut residents. They're going to come up and experience Springfield. And not only are they going to experience Springfield in the casino, but we're going to send them out and have them experience Main Street in terms of restaurants. They're going to stop and buy gas, and that gas is going to go to sales tax revenue that goes to the state. There is an economic benefit here. And you're right, let's not trivialize over the numbers. It's like when I get attacked about the 3,000 jobs. Well, Mike, is it really 3,000? Guarantee that number. It might be 2,950. It might be 3,100, but the point is that's 3,000 more jobs or 2,900 more jobs than exist in this market today. And there is no answer from the other side about what's going to replace that if they're successful in killing this initiative.
All right, we're going to have to take a quick break here. Thank you, gentlemen. But come right back. And
Do I ever get the last word on any of these back and forths?
You will have your opportunity, Al, and I
Thank
think
you.
you've had just as much time as Mike, but thank you. We'll be back in a few moments.